1. This is a very recent occurrence. I have autism to begin with, and I'm female. I've seen a few other ladies on here with my disorder poster experiences, so I figured it was time I did as well. I'm 17 and I live in the midst of a farming community, native reserve town. As such, my town is full of drunks, rednecks, and drug abusers and a collection of misfitted kids who all want to be gangsters. I'm one of the small percentage of white girls in my town, especially at my age. I'm chunky and a bit unassuming, and usually very polite. But if I get emotional over something or see some kind of injustice, I speak out against it and lash out. This has given me trouble in the past. I haven't lived in this area that long either. Maybe about almost 45 years. I grew up in another small town further north, closer to a couple of the cities and away from reserves. When I lived in that town, my mouth and lack of understanding about social skills got me into heaps of trouble. It included prank phone calls, bullying, mind games to make me look stupid, even threats of sexual violence against my person. We moved here half because of this situation I was in, and half for a new company my dad is currently employed in. Now a bit more so you understand what the exact situation is. I don't have very many friends here, being white, clean, non-smoking, and awkward at social skills, but recently I made one that I will call Carrie. Carrie lives at a youth assessment center for reasons I won't get into, but she's been through a lot of awful stuff, and we began to hang out after she started to go to my church. She's been helping me exercise in exchange for company on the 2 hours a day she's allowed to roam the town. Now on to the story. Carrie and I had gone to the midway that comes with the rodeo, each on a separate day. When we meet up a few more days later this past week, she was mad and upset. Apparently this guy that she knows, who was dating this girl she also knows, was flirting with other women at the midway, including Carrie herself. His then girlfriend got wind of this from a bunch of her so-called friends and family, who all said it was Carrie that came onto him. Thus began some pretty nasty bullying, to which I got to witness on Facebook. Being me, I hated bullying because of what I went through, and not thinking properly, I used my messenger app to find her and sent her a message, telling her to quit, and that she was being juvenile. Because really, if this guy felt the need to flirt with other girls, he was clearly overcompensating for something. That was a really stupid idea. Instantly I got backlash of her, calling me a hoe and accusing me of being one of the girls that came onto her boyfriend. I haven't even met this guy. And if I did, and he tried that, I would have rebuffed him anyways because boys aren't my thing, to put it like that. I tried to show her, but she got increasingly rude. And she was also making me stoop to her level, so I just muted the conversation. Another big mistake, as I thought I blocked her. A day later, yesterday in fact, I started getting messages from her again. Carrie has since blocked her, so I was the unfortunate person she was demanding from. This is basically parts of her conversation. Her. Look, shut the fuck up and tell her to message me, okay? If you don't want to be on my bad side, I suggest you tell her to message me. Me. No, I won't. Her. Then you will be on my bad side. Me. Okay. At this point, I didn't really know what to say because 1, I am not letting this chick have access to my friend, and second of all, she's threatening me because I'm not doing what she asks. Her. This shall be fun. Me. All I said was no, I will not do what you ask. Her. All I gotta say is watch your back. Her. This shall be fun. Her. I love seeing people in pain. After this, I blocked her. This time I made sure to. This all again happened yesterday. And despite her threats, I did go out. But Carrie is a bit worried. She knows this girl and told me that she got a record for past violent acts. She did get the police involved, apparently, but right now there's nothing they can do. My parents do know. They're disappointed in my methods, but proud of me for standing up for Carrie. So far, it sounds like her threats may be all hot air, but we'll see. If anything happens, I will update. But I would love some advice on what to do from here. Update. Thanks for all the advice on what to do, and also reminding me not to get involved. Yes, I should know better. And I know my reason isn't an excuse, but having Asperger's makes me very impulsive and socially inept. 2 traits of the disorder that I try to curb. I have also since then taken screenshots of the threats, but I will not post them on here since that would just be wrong in itself. Now, what happened today makes me very suspicious that this girl is making good on her threat. I walk my dog Mandy on sporadic occasions, whenever I have the energy or time to. Mandy is a golden retriever black lab cross, but she looks more golden. She's usually a very sweet and people-friendly dog, and well behaved on her leash. Today I was walking my usual route around the Catholic school that I attend. It's still summer break, so I'm not in session at the moment, when this white Ford truck pulled up ahead of me, and a couple of guys, maybe a year older than me, that I didn't recognize, got out. I didn't really think much about it, since the basketball pad at my school is a hangout during summer. However, Mandy started growling and barking and yanking at her leash. She does this for 2 reasons. Either she sees a cat or another dog, starts barking at her. But I didn't see either. The 2 guys, both native, were approaching me, and suddenly Mandy got free and took off after them. I will tell you now that she's only done this one other time when I was younger, to protect me and my sister from a neighbor's very aggressive territorial pit bull that tried to attack us when it broke loose. Another story for another time. She raced towards the guys, and I saw that they dropped something before getting into their truck and sped off. When I got up to where Mandy was, I started scolding her because I confusedly thought that she had just scared off a couple guys who wanted to play basketball. On the ground, though, I found a knife, and it hit me and I started crying. These 2 guys had a knife and were coming towards me, not entering the grounds to go to the basketball pad, but coming right up towards me. I didn't have my cell phone on me, stupid me, but I went home and told my mom. We went back out together, but by that time the knife was gone. Mom wants me to stay inside for a few days, and I've agreed. If this girl seriously is making good on her threat, then what am I supposed to do if I don't have the evidence that something could have happened? More bad stuff happened, guys. I'm home alone with my dad for the weekend, but he goes out to help my uncle in a nearby hamlet remodel his kitchen. Last night, he was out late and I was watching The Lone Ranger. I love Johnny Depp as Tonto, and I heard a gunshot. I know what I was watching, and I really didn't think about it. But this morning, I went outside to let my dog out for her run, and found shattered pieces of metal on the concrete and a funny-looking dent. You can guess what it is. I contacted the police and they took it into evidence, but with the thing shattered, bullets and concrete don't mix. And Dad wants me to stay inside today and not go anywhere. And you know what? The police here suck because when I showed them the screenshots, they just shrugged and said, "We really can't do anything as long as she isn't coming into direct contact with you." I hate to sound racist, but they're native too, and the police around here aren't known for their proficiency. So I'm at a crossroads, because someone shot at my house last night, and the day before I got approached by 2 men armed with a knife. This had better end soon. P.S. I also warned Carrie, who is living in a secure building that houses the YAC. They're out of town on a camping trip, so she hasn't been affected by anything. Also, I know how to swing a frying pan and where the kitchen knives are in case anything else happens. A car has been circling our house for the past 2 days. A white Camaro of sorts, I think. It just whizzed by, with screeching tires the first night, Saturday, and on Sunday it was a really slow crawl before zooming away. I'm praying this is just a coincidence, and none of this has anything to do with this girl's threat. I haven't seen the white car today, Monday, and we're leaving on Friday. To where I will not say, but it's for my younger sister's sport. I'll be looking forward to getting away for a while, to where it can't affect me. Hotel, family, and plenty of things to do for a few days will probably help me in the long run. Probably. I'm home now, guys, for my short vacation. I'm sorry for taking so long to keep you posted, but I'm still being harassed. We came home to find broken beer bottles all over our lawn and driveway. Our dog, luckily, is unharmed, but she's been tense and barking more. Last night someone drove by with their engines gunning and threw a brick at our truck, denting the taillight. My dad has almost had it, and so have I. I definitely know that this girl is a fucking psycho, and I wish I could confront her myself and tell her off. Something stupid, I know, but I'm just so fed up. School is starting next week, so when this happens, hopefully the juvenile delinquents that have been bothering us will lay off once they're back in school. I have reason to believe that from the age of the guys from my first encounter, and the age of the girl that's been threatening me, they are from a public school on the opposite side of town. Over there, compared to my school, it's where all the supposed gang members go. So if this keeps up into the school year, and if my suspicions are correct, my dad is going to call the principal, a friend of his, and get this girl questioned by police. 2. When people don't sit next to me on the bus, I feel both slightly relieved and slightly rejected. When this happens, I always think to myself, do I smell? Do I look weird? Is there something on my face that I'm not aware of? But when a creep decided to take a seat next to you, then, hell, it's a whole different story. For background, I'm a 21-year-old working female and just recently changed my usual 6 to 3 p.m. shift to a 8:30 to 5:31. I lived far away from where I work, and it usually takes 2.5 hours to get there, so I always leave home as early as possible, so I wouldn't catch the morning traffic, which is a pain in the ass for commuters here in the Philippines. In my old shift, I would always get on the bus at 4 a.m, and at this time, crime is usually rampant, so I'm extra cautious of my surroundings, and I never forget to bring my trusty stun gun with me, just in case shit happens, but so far nothing bad or weird has ever happened. That is, until today. I got to the bus stop, and got on the 5:30 a.m. bus. Luckily, it wasn't full yet, so there were a lot of vacant spots, and I happily chose the 3-seater, and sat near the window, and thought about the damn project I have to finish today. Before I got to my seat though, I've already noticed this big buff guy on the 2-seater opposite to where I sat was staring at me. To be honest, I considered myself an average girl. I mean, I got that not really pretty but not really ugly kind of face. You get the picture. I never even wore skirts, dresses, high heels, or anything revealing unless it's a special occasion. Earlier, I was just wearing an oversized plaid shirt, leggings, large framed glasses, and a bad hair day, so what the hell was he staring at? I got a little conscious, though, and decided to stare outside the window as the bus started moving. Not after a few minutes, this guy sat next to me and shit starts. The moment he sat down, I instantly got a bad vibe off him. Why is he sitting next to me when there was literally lots of vacant seats, even at the front? I thought rationally, and maybe he was near his stop, and was ready to get off, and then he started staring at me again. This eventually went on for the whole 2.5 hours ride. Well, not 2.5 hours ride of full-on staring, but he would take glances at me when I wasn't looking and pretend to sleep when I tried to catch him staring. I was growing more annoyed and nervous at the same time. But then I decided to study his features, in case this dude plans to sexually harass me or mug me. First of all, he smelled like wet cardboard, and with my motion sickness, it just made things worse for me. 2, I estimated that he was maybe around 40 years old and probably 5'8". And lastly, he was carrying a somewhat low-quality version of a Teenage Ninja Turtle shell prop. Yep, so apparently, my would-be suspect is a Teenage Ninja Turtle fan as well. Now that's interesting, and just fucking great. I frowned and almost had enough when he let out an exasperated sigh, and once again I saw him in the corner of my eye staring at me. I then thought, maybe there's something on my face and he was just shy to point it out. So I opened my compact mirror to check, but saw nothing. I had an idea to pretend to sleep as well, to find out what this asshole is planning, once and for all. I put down my long hair to cover half of my face, and the moment he thought I was asleep, he woke up, and I saw him texting. I took a peek while he was busy and managed to catch some of these words. "Si abapre." Translation, is this her? Immediately there was a reply. "Uyung, maputi." Translation, yes, the fair-skinned one. Alarm bells were ringing in my head, but I still want to think that I'm just being paranoid. And it's not me the text is referring to, but fuck it. I pulled out my stun gun, that is disguised as a mascara tube, and pretended to call my cousin, who is currently a lieutenant in the police force, so that this fucker knew who he's messing with. I saw him tense up when I said lieutenant, and he kinda muttered something I didn't understand. After a few minutes, he stared at me for one last time before getting off the bus. I instantly felt relieved. I don't know what he was up to, but it's obviously bad, so let's not meet again, or I'll zap your balls. 3. I first moved out of my parents' house in 2008. I was 20. I had a 2-year-old daughter. And gosh darn it, I wanted to assert my independence and prove that I wasn't living with my parents because I couldn't live on my own. Overall, it was a relatively dumb idea. I moved to a cool part of town next to campus, next to one of our arts districts, but in a really beautiful neighborhood I always wanted to live in. But it was 15 minutes away from the suburb my parents lived in, and since I worked nights, I'd spend way too much time driving back and forth, so my mom would babysit on the nights I worked. Despite the inconvenience, the neighborhood did not disappoint. I was in a small apartment building, right in the middle of beautiful Victorian houses. Houses itself are upwards of over $1 million. Lovely neighbors, quiet area, no problems with anyone ever. It felt safe. There was a neighborhood watch and everything. I think there was only one incident of car break-ins in my 2 years there. And even then, they just hit cars that were unlocked. No smashed windows or damaged property. I was upstairs at the end of the building. There was no reason for anyone other than me or my people to be near my door or window. The guy who lived right next to me, who I've always referred to as neighbor, was a quiet guy who immersed himself in school and work. He never had people over, and wasn't known for drunken antics. This story takes place right around the end of my 2nd year there. 2 years of nothing remarkable other than the aforementioned car break-ins. Around May of 2010, I was outside cleaning the glass on the door and the windows, and decobwebbing the cheap black iron patio furniture I got at Target. The windows were tall. I am short. In order for me to clean the upper portions of the window, I had to stand on one of the chairs and reach. That's when I noticed something. Lip prints. Well, just one set of lips. On the window. Pretty high up, too. I couldn't reach them if I wasn't on the chair. At the time, I was mostly annoyed, thinking maybe neighbor had had friends over and one of his drunk friends kissed my window. Because who else would even be near my window? After that, I always made a point to see if the lips showed up again. They didn't, so it confirmed my drunk neighbor theory in my mind. Now, this is where everyone groans and rolls their eyes. Trust me, I know. I know. I was young and dumb, but even that's not an excuse. Because of where I lived, neighborhood-wise and within the building, there were plenty of nights I'd leave the blinds open. And not only that, but the way the apartment was set up, an L-shape. Living room, kitchen, and bedroom, all in a straight line back, and then the bathroom off to the side of the bedroom. My daughter's room was more towards the inside of the bedroom, and mine was at the end of the straight line back. I liked the way the light would come through the trees in the morning. It was really a beautiful sight, and I liked waking up to it. I know, it was a dumb choice. And here's another thing that makes me want to curl up and die. Many nights my daughter, at this point in the story 4 years old, would sleep in my bed, until she didn't, which was probably around the 4th of July if I remember correctly. She attributed this to the tall man watches me sleep. I don't like it. But in my defense, this kid was known for saying some really creepy shit. One time she told me a ghost of a baby pig, named Baby Pig Ghost, would talk to her, and he was sad because people tore him apart. And she was sad because the other ghost pigs wanted to hurt me. So her saying something like that was super creepy, but I didn't think there was literally a tall man watching us sleep. But to appease her, and because I was thoroughly creeped out by what she said, I'd kinda leave the blinds down at night. Most nights I was up until 3 or 4 because of my work schedule. I figured she was just being weird again, but the imagery sticks with you, I guess. And on to the night that put me in therapy and turned me into the most paranoid person you could ever meet. It was early August. I was asleep in my bed. I went down pretty early. My bedroom door was open like it always was. I was asleep facing the living room like I always was. The blinds were down and closed, like they had been for a month. But the string was wonky, so one portion of the blinds always had about an inch or two of space from the windowsill. All the lights inside were off, but the patio light was on outside. I randomly woke up and looked down at my phone to see what time it was. Just a few minutes after 3. I was annoyed, thinking there's no way I'm going to fall back asleep. And that's when I saw it. Outside of the window, I saw the silhouette of a tall person through the blinds. He was standing, completely still. He was standing so still for so long that I started to think I was crazy. I thought I was seeing things. And that's when he sat in one of the chairs outside. I was completely frozen in terror. I couldn't move a muscle. Texting or calling for help seemed out of the question. I was afraid he'd see the light from my phone or hear me. But then again, he sat there for so long that I convinced myself I just saw a shadow and that nothing was there. And then again, he moved. He stood back up and turned around. He stepped closer to my window and paused. He got right up to the window and paused again. And that's when he leaned over and was looking through the 2 inches of space between the windowsill and the bottom of the blinds. He stood there for longer than what seemed feasibly possible, in that bent-over position. His head didn't move. He just stood there looking while I kept my eyes mostly shut. I thought if there was any way he could possibly see me with my eyes open, looking at him, it'd make him snap and he'd bust in. Eventually he stood back up and walked out of view. Then I heard the screen door creak open. I can only assume he tried the doorknob, but thankfully, I wasn't so much of a dumb shit that I left my door unlocked. Then I heard the door shut again. And after that, there was nothing. After I heard the door shut, and I didn't see him come back to the window, I checked my phone. It was 3:48 a.m. I quietly slid out of bed and crawled toward the bathroom and threw up. I waited until the sun came up before I called the cops. I can't explain why I was so afraid to move or make noise until then, but I was paralyzed with fear in the bathroom until then. 2 officers showed up, and I stepped outside to talk to them. And it came as little surprise to see that the lip prints were on the window again, roughly in the same spot. I have a photo on my MacBook, but at this point it's out of commission, so I can't access it right now. The police took their photos, the report was filed. I never slept there again. With the police report, I was able to cancel the lease renewal I had signed, and I moved back in with my parents. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 123. I'll just reconfirm that the channel name is Hellfreezer. That is the name of the channel, that is my name, the address says King of the Cities, and I am not affiliated with any other channels in any way. Okay, that being said, let's move on. I just want to thank everyone for letting me use their stories. And, it was an interesting day for me today. I was out shopping. But that wasn't the interesting part. I do that quite often, actually. And as I was leaving the grocery store, I happened to just casually glance at the newspaper stand that is newly set up at the exit. And I noticed there was a headline there. It was a local newspaper that read something about a pervert driving instructor. I thought, oh, that's quite unfortunate. And just as I was at the door about to walk out, it kind of clicked in my mind that I recognized the guy in the picture. It turns out that pervert driving instructor was my former driving instructor. Now, I haven't had lessons for many years. I did take the test once, but I really shouldn't have. I wasn't ready for it. He said I was. He was not correct, and I failed miserably, but that's a story I might tell you another time. That's a bit of a TIFU, actually. So, yeah. Turns out this guy, who I was never really that fond of, a bit too jumpy for a driving instructor, in my opinion. Yes, turns out he is allegedly guilty of sexually assaulting 2 young girls. He'd basically groped them is what he'd done. I think that's the extent of it, but still, it's an awful thing. Allegedly, he's denying the crimes, but he was convicted. Didn't go to jail, though. Lucky him, I guess. Not so lucky for the at least 2 girls he felt up. Well, people know about him now. No longer able to work as a driving instructor. He's been removed. I wasn't aware, but apparently he joined some sort of organization to give driving lessons, and he is no longer allowed to charge people for lessons. Oh well, okay, on that note, I think I'm going to jet, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.